Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Roy and Kim Show.
Wait, no, this is not the Roy and Kim Show.
All right, it's not the Roy and Kim Show. We are. All right, not the Roy and Kim Show. But we are together to talk about our Seattle real estate predictions for 2024.
That's right. We've got quite a bit to cover, so we're just going to jump right into it. But what we are first, before we jump into it, I hear that it's your 25th year in real estate this year.
It is, Roy. 25 years. Thank you.
That's pretty amazing.
It's my silver anniversary. And I hear it's your 10-year anniversary in real estate.
That is true, which I hear is the 10 anniversary.
Oh, that's awesome. I got a can of tuna in the car as a gift if you want it.
I was hoping for a can of beer, but tuna will work just fine. Before we get started, let's talk about what we're going to talk about,
yes,
which
of course.
is recap 2023. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about interest rates, appreciation, new construction, and advice for buyers and sellers. And at this time,
we're also going to talk about the election.
That's right.
Because we can't not talk about the election, can we?
No, it's here.
So let's start with our recap. 2023. That was a fun year, wasn't it, Roy?
It happened.
So as y'all know, the rates skyrocketed starting in 2022. And we entered 2023 super high rates. But still, I would say, even with the rates being super high, the market was strong. We didn't see a lot of price depreciation. Actually, we saw a little price appreciation.
That's true. I think the highest rate I saw a client with was 8.15.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's where the rate was when I started real estate in 1999.
That's bonkers.
It is bonkers. And of course, the price is way different than they were back then.
Very true.
This had a huge impact on the market. We did see buyers taking a really long time to make a decision and being very, very fiscally conservative, like really honing in on the right property, the right price, and not buying things that need a lot of work.
Absolutely. And I think another point along that too is that almost every buyer that I had last year bought because they felt they had to. Mm. So it was either their family getting larger or moving to be closer to other family out of state. It was really, you had to have a lot of motivation last year to enter the market and make it work.
Right. And we saw buyers with motivation and we saw things sell. And I think part of the reason that kept the market really strong is we have perpetually low inventory in Seattle. And because a lot of buy-up sellers weren't selling because the rates were too high and their rate was so good, we didn't see a lot of properties come on the market, which really does keep our market pretty solid and strong in Seattle.
One interesting thing about the rates from 2023, and we started seeing this in 2022, was the utilization of conventional financing using like a 2-1 buy down or a 3-2-1 buy down, meaning that your interest rate you're paying the first or second years are lower than the standard interest rate. I think we're going to continue seeing that this year too.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting. I think it took a while for a lot of mortgage folks and a lot of buyers to really comprehend what a gift that was to do the 2-1 buy down and kind of get committed to it, which is interesting because I think we saw a little bit of an uptick in purchases and prices in the fall compared to the beginning of the year because people started embracing, I can do this 2-1 buy down and buy property and not be, not have my mortgage payment be outrageous for the next 2 years.
Absolutely. And that leads into what are we going to see in 2024? I know we talk to the same lenders a lot of the time, but it kind of sounds like a lot of people are predicting that we will see rates go down. Rates are going to go lower, but it's going to be a roller coaster. People are going to be, interest rates are going to be going up and down and up and down. And I think we're going to see buyers attack and back up, attack and back up as those interest rates keep moving around.
I agree.
Because that's all we saw last year. If there was a week where the interest rate dipped a little bit, there'd be 10 offers on the house.
And if it went up, it'd be crickets. So let's talk about where we think rates are going to go this year. You mentioned that we're seeing rates go down. I think they're about 6.75 right now, or 6.5 maybe.
Yeah, we're about 6.5.
Which is way far away from the 8.1 it was in the fall of last year.
Yes, it is.
Now, we talk to our lenders all the time and our mortgage folks all the time, and there seems to be a consensus that we are going to see rates go down this year.
I agree. I think so. I think that, in order for the financial markets to continue to operate, there has to be some sort of opening of the gates for buyers to be able to
Yes.
get into the market comfortably.
And lowering rates is the only way to do that. Now, it's going to be a slow roll.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to see 3.
No.
Like 3's gone.
3's gone. I don't think we're going to see 4.
Right.
We might see something in the 5s.
Totally.
By maybe summer, fall, definitely by the end of the year. I think I'm pretty confident, and everyone else is pretty confident that's going to happen. I think depending on how fast those rates come down will be a real indication of how fast the market transitions.
Absolutely. It'll be really interesting because every year, we start out kind of quiet, and then all of a sudden everyone enters the market, buyers and sellers. And rates this year are going to be the gas pedal, brake pedal that we saw a lot of last year. We're going to continue to see that this year, even though the interest rates that you're buying at are going to be a little bit lower.
Right. Yeah. So that leads us to talking about appreciation. So where do we think appreciation will be this year? What are your thoughts?
For the last 20 to 25 years, homes in Seattle appreciate about 3 to 5% on average.
Pretty consistent.
2020 we saw a lot. 2018 we didn't see quite as much.
Nope.
But I think we're still going to see appreciation on home values. I think if you're at the top of your price point, your opportunity to buy is at the beginning of the year, not the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, it's not every time a seller lists, their neighbor sees that price and they want a little bit more. And so we will see a natural progression of appreciation going through, especially with the ability of doing, seller concessions on the backside. We don't get to see that information in the MLS.
No. And we noticed that a lot of buyers last year, our buyers and even some of our sellers, were dealing with seller concessions. So you don't know if something sold for full price, but the seller gave that buyer $20,000 in concessions. Right. And there were a lot of that happening last year. I mean, we did it. Yeah. Some of our sellers had to give up some money for concessions. I mean, it's definitely happening. So it's kind of tough to read exactly what that means for prices if there's a lot of seller concessions being built into the price.
Yeah, I think the thing I would want people to take away from this is that we're not going to see some amazing perfect time to buy a house based on purchase price.
No,
we're not going to see okay, it's June, everything's 20% off. Well,
And I also think one of my concerns that I had is that a lot of buyers are going to start the process and then they're going to sit back and wait till those rates get to a certain price. And then that's going to then they're shoot out of the gate and it's going to be like 2022 all over again, where there's this frenzy for the little bit of inventory we have because everyone's waiting for the perfect rate. And I'm like, don't do that. Please don't do that, because that just causes prices to shoot up, and whatever little bit of rate depreciation you got, you lose because the prices go up and there's multiple offers. I mean, get in now if you're ready now.
And in that vein, thinking about the revolving conversation we've been having for multiple years now, which is that if you buy at a rate, you can refi to a lower rate if rates lower.
But what can't you change?
You can't change the location
for the price that you paid for the house. Can't renegotiate the price after you buy it. But guess what? You can get a lower rate.
That's exactly
some point down the road.
So part of that conversation that I think you're trying to say, and I'm also trying to say, is that, do you want to be out buying a house when you're confident, you're maybe competing against one or two other people, or do you want to wait for everyone else that's sitting on their couch to all enter the market, and then you're competing against 10 people for the same property?
I don't know about you, but I want my buyers to not have to compete with 15 other people.
I agree. I'm prepared to do it if we get to it, but I would prefer we didn't have to.
No, and I'm sure they would too.
Yeah.
So the next thing we want to talk about is new construction.
Oh, yeah. We definitely want to talk about new construction.
We have to talk about new construction because there's so much of it. Well, maybe not enough of it. Depends on how you look at it.
It's kind of wild right now, right?
It is.
Because I live down in White Center, right on the edge of Greenbridge, and there's another 150 homes going in that neighborhood. They're all 4 and 5 bedroom. They're all standalone, and they're honestly, they're pretty good houses.
Yeah.
I've gone to look at them. They're not bad. But what I'm seeing a lot more of is we're seeing infill. So we're seeing a lot of homes split their lot, build another unit behind it. And so I think that if you're a buyer entering the market in 2024 and you're looking to live close in, you're really going to have to probably accept the fact that you're not buying a single family home with a 5,000 square foot lot. Not if you want new construction anyway.
Right. Especially, and if you don't want a condo, you're going to be buying some kind of infill housing, townhouse. Now, we have seen a trend toward these cottage houses.
Yes.
And there's a few builders we've worked with who have been doing these small cottages that are standalone cottages.
Yes.
On bigger lots. And I kind of love that idea. I wish I would see more builders do that, because it definitely means like you have the feel of a single family home. Your walls aren't attached. You have a little bit of common area you can
It's very,
share.
very exciting.
It is very exciting.
Quite honestly, I wish we had seen more of that back when I was 25.
Yeah.
Because at 25, that would have been the perfect thing to buy.
Oh my God, it'd totally be the perfect thing for a single person or a young couple to buy.
Absolutely.
And I really hope, builders, that we do see more of this type of property.
I mean, we're starting to see the zoning that allows for it, and we're starting to see, you know, more and more regulation that allows for these types of properties in a way that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and with the zoning changes, there's a lot of chatter about backyard cottages and how that's becoming a thing, that the zoning there's more allowance for those. But I still see it being super cost prohibitive for people, because, I mean, $350 price a square foot to build, you know, anything in Seattle. So a 500 square foot cottage is $200,000. That's a lot of money for most people.
About if you were going to buy a 500 or 600 square foot house, you're looking at $6K.
True.
Or 60 or 600K.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
You know, like,
Right.
like if you're, because I mean, believe me, we've got both in West Seattle.
Yeah.
We see them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that that's going to be the push and pull for people.
It is.
Like,
It is.
you know, am I going to buy this unit that my friend built in their backyard, or someone I don't know built in their backyard, or am I going to move further out
Right.
to get that more space?
Yeah, and I think it's more, when I say it's more of a hindrance, I'm thinking more people buying homes and then trying to build these little backyard cottages as rentals. Like that, that's a big thing that everyone's talking about, but I still think it's pretty cost prohibitive to do that for most people. And I wish that there was I wish that there was a way that someone would create easy build backyard cottage that was a little bit cheaper for folks.
I mean, that's the thing though, right? Like everything's expensive.
Everything's expensive, right?
Believe me, there are beautiful ones that you can have trucked in, put down on a slab, and
That's
ready
so
to go.
Yeah,
But
well, they're
none
still
of it's-
super fancy.
None of it's cheap.
None of it's cheap, yeah.
I think something that we're probably going to see, as someone who has parents who are getting older, hi dad, you know, is that there could be that possibility or that necessity to have a space for aging parents.
Right.
That then that cost becomes them selling their home where they are, and then us building
Helping
where
it.
we are, so that we're all
Right.
together.
And that's where the allowance is super important in the zoning, so that if you need to do that or that's something you want to do, you have the ability now to do that.
But going back to your first point, like I totally agree that if you just have a home and you're like, oh, I want this so that I can have the investment of it, financing for that is going to be nearly impossible.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So we're on to the next section, which is buyers and sellers. What do we want to tell people that they need to be prepared for? We'll start with buyers, and you'll start this.
Oh, all right. I'm going to start. Okay. Well, okay, Roy, you know my motto, never chase the market down.
Yes.
I say this over and over again to buyers. Stop waiting for the perfect time to buy. The perfect time to buy is when it's the right time for you and your family financially.
Right. We joked about the Roy and Kim show, and you know how we ran this show for like a year. And I swear every episode that we did this, Kim said, the perfect time to buy is when you're ready.
Right.
It never changes.
It never changes.
It's always the case, right?
It's always the case. And especially this year, because we talked about earlier, the fear that I had that everyone's going to wait for the rates to hit 5 or 5.5, and then they're going to like frenzy into the market. If you wait for that, like I said, whatever gain you get from a lower interest rate, you're going to lose in prices going up and competition.
Yeah, and the reason for that is that, you know, as you're looking at the purchase price and you're looking at your monthly payment and you go, wow, the rate dropped 1%. That means my monthly payment goes to this. Now I can afford 30, 40, 50 grand more. So can everyone else.
Right.
So it is kind of an open gate for the prices to immediately jump up, because there's a larger pool of buyers looking at that smaller pool of homes. And that's what we're trying to say in the like, you know, don't wait for everybody else to jump in the market.
Right.
When rates lower, yes, you have higher buying power. So does everyone else.
Right. I also think it's super important to buy within your means whatever it means that you can buy, and not wait for the perfect thing. But I do also talk to my buyers about, look, if you're in the position where you know you're going to be growing a family, and you know that your salary is going to go up, or your wages are going to go up, or you're going to get a promotion, it's not a bad idea to maybe stretch a tiny little bit to get that house that you could stay in for 5 years instead of 3 years, so that you're not struggling in 3 years going, oh my God, now I have a kid and I don't have an extra bathroom, or my house is too small, or I don't have a big enough yard. You know, you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for your future self up for success down the road.
Yeah, you know, and I would to yes and that, if you will, to piggyback on what you're saying, be realistic with what it is that you actually need.
Right.
Because like when we bought our house, you know, we were like, oh my God, it's all this space, it's all these things. And, you know, and now 7 years in, we're realizing, okay, now it's the time where we need the larger house.
Right.
If we had bought that larger house then, we'd just be swimming in space or in a location that we don't like. The reason that it's important to be straightforward with yourself and what you're looking for is you don't want to spend more for something you're not going to use.
That's true too.
Like, don't get me wrong. A larger house is always nicer. It's sort of sweeter. But like when, you know, like we had to have 2 offices in our house for a long time. And now my wife goes into work every single day. So we need 1 office. Right. You know, so it ends up being more space than we actually need. And if we were looking for the same thing now, we'd probably be looking at a slightly smaller house at the same price.
Right. Yeah. Except you're getting ready to have a kid, right? So.
That too. But, you know, like, yeah, so in that malleability, we have that where we are, but we're also looking for a larger house. Right. You know, so that family can finally come visit. They didn't visit nearly as much as I thought they were going to. Granted, we were in a global pandemic, but, you know, we didn't need the space like we do now. 7 years after that. So I think realistically, make sure whatever you're buying in your means, and you're also being realistic about what you need now and what you might need in a year, 2 or 3. Maybe not 10, but a few years down the road. So you're not overbuying or underbuying. Right. Or buying somewhere you don't actually want to be. True. That's true too. Like that's a big thing that I think people are going to be looking at this year. You know, I mentioned work from home and back to work. You know, we're seeing a lot of places requiring people to be closer to the city that they didn't have to be 2-3 years ago. So that's going to change where people are buying. And that's something to consider, because even as we're looking at new houses 30 minutes, you know, or 10 minutes further out, that changes a day's commute by half an hour to an hour. And I'm curious, as more and more businesses really push people to come back to work, are all those folks that like spread out into the hinterlands when they didn't have to go to work, are they going to start wanting to come back into the city now? I think so. I think so too. I think so. Maybe not all of them this year, but I think in the next few years, we're going to see another transition again. Definitely. So now that we talked about buyers, we should probably talk about sellers and advice for sellers for 2024. Absolutely, because you can't talk about buyers without talking about sellers. No, because they're often the same people. Exactly. That was my point I was going to make. They're often the same people. I just stole your point. Right. So sellers, if you are selling a home, it's probably because you want to buy a home. And if you're following our advice for buyers and not waiting for the market to get perfect to buy, and you're going to buy this year, then you're probably going to want to sell. And you know what? I say do it. Sell this year if you're ready to buy and ready to move up or downsizing, because we had a pretty strong seller year last year, even with the high interest rates. We're going to see lower interest rates. It's definitely going to be a great year for sellers to sell, but I do think buyers are still going to be fiscally conservative, and sellers are still going to have to price their homes right, make sure that they fix things that are broken, or that they have a move-in ready property, because if buyers get a glimpse that there's something that they can negotiate on, they're going to go in for blood and do it. That's a really good point. I do it with my buyers. So do I. You know, if there's something that needs to be fixed and my buyers are spending all the money they have, we're definitely going to ask for those repairs. Of course you are. You are. And that's the right thing that you should be doing. And sellers, if you haven't taken good care of your home and you have deferred maintenance, be prepared for having to give up a little bit of cash to those buyers to get people in the door or to get a deal closed. You know, we've done tons of videos in the past about like, what does that process look like if you are a seller who's also looking to buy, and how you manage that process. Right. And so you definitely watch those videos, but have us over. Like, we'd love to sit in your living room and actually have these conversations, not just about that process, but also what maintenance is necessary in your home before we sell, and what is like a nice to have, you know, because a lot of times it looks great to go remodel that bathroom, but it may not give you the same return as doing the electrical issues that you have.
Oh my God.
Or fixing that roof that you've been kind of, you know, messing with. So just have us over. We'd love to have these conversations with you.
Oh, I totally
about how to get ready to sell your house.
I just spent an hour with the client, with Donna yesterday, talking about all kinds of fun things that they want to do to their house, and actually convincing them to not do some things that they thought they should do. I'm like, don't do that. Don't replace all the doorknobs on the doors. You don't have to do that. Oh, but yes, get rid of the hot tub that doesn't work. Right? Which they were willing to do. That wasn't, I didn't have to convince them, but still, I think it's great to be able to pull in a real estate agent that you trust and who's willing to do that kind of walkthrough with you.
Absolutely.
And we're willing to do it in the nitty gritty. I even offered to help them find paint colors for their house because I kind of love that kind of stuff.
That's fun to do.
It's fun to do.
That's fun for us. You know, we're not all just contracts.
Right,
but,
right.
But yeah, no, I think that, you know, for sellers, yes, this year, do the maintenance. If you've been putting it off because it's expensive, do it. If you decide not to sell, you're going to have a better house for you.
Right.
When you decide to sell, you're going to be very happy you did it then and not under the gun to try and get it done prior to close.
Oh my God, absolutely. And also getting that maintenance done now means that you save yourself probably more money in repairs down the road anyway.
Right. That's a really good point.
So just do it.
If it's leaking now, it's dripping somewhere.
Oh my God, yes. And it's going to be way worse 2 years from now than it is now. And you don't want to deal with that when you're getting ready to list your house. You definitely don't. You don't want a buyer to find it either when you're in the middle of trying to sell your house.
Just like as when you go out to buy, you don't want to find those things that you're going to have to do as soon as you just spent all your money to buy this thing.
So I definitely think it's going to be a good year to sell. And I know there's some folks out there that are like, no, I think I should rent my house. I think you should think about that pretty seriously.
Have a conversation with us.
Yeah, have a conversation with us. Have a conversation with the property manager.
Yeah.
Renting your home is not a bad option, but there's a lot of moving parts to consider. Rental rules are very restrictive in Seattle, and no one takes care of your house the way you do. So, for better or worse. So, yeah, call us. We're happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Kim, we got one more point.
Yes.
2024 is an election year.
Oh my God, it is.
How is that going to affect our local market?
Well, I definitely feel like in Seattle, we're super sensitive to elections.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a little bit of anxiety in the market about the election. And I think as we get closer to election day, we could see that ripple into the real estate market.
Absolutely.
People might just chill out until they see what happens after the election before making any decisions.
It definitely felt like in 2016, there was a regional pause, a holding of breath that happened until things kind of sorted out.
Right.
It got real quiet on the buyer and seller side during those times. And I would not be surprised if that happens again.
I would not be surprised either.
But
I do think there's also a lot of energy in the air.
Oh, absolutely.
About being engaged in the election. And, a positive outcome of the election would be positive for the economy and for
That's very true.
people.
I mean, home ownership can be considered a political act.
It is.
Like you're putting direct roots into the community that you want to be a part of. And I think that this year is really important for those of us who are fortunate enough to own homes in communities that we do everything we can to further the values that we want to see our local governments portray and our national government portray. And that doesn't change any year, but I think it's that much more important to do it this year because it's a big spicy one.
Oh, it is a big spicy one. And I think elections, even local elections, always impact the market a little bit.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah,
especially if it's like Washington State. We're getting more and more zoning, regulations that are coming through that are, in my opinion, positive. We're seeing a lot more rental restrictions for positive or negative stances. Everything that is real estate related is also tied into
what happens politically and how our government functions, right? And a functioning government is super important for a strong real estate market, locally and nationally.
Exactly. I think that's a great note to end on, if I'm being honest. Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy.
I miss doing this.
I
every
know.
week. It's a pain in the butt. We are not going to be doing it every week like we used to. But thank you so much for doing this. I always love to hear your opinions on the market and also get to share my opinions on the market.
Well, I love hearing your opinions, and I do miss the Roy and Kim show. This was super fun, but it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
But we'll probably be doing more of these throughout the year too.
We absolutely will. I mean, we have way more videos coming out this year talking about different situations for buyers and sellers, not just listing videos.
Right.
So make sure to throw a like at us, subscribe to our channel, because it's really important to us.
We love being loved.
We want to share with you guys.
Yep.
So this is Roy Powell, and
Kim Colapreti.
we're with Team Diva at Coldwell Banker Bain.
Ciao for now.